Hey, what is up everybody? Kilryan here bringing you another video, and this time it's going to be an overview of my PvP build for Kung Fu Master. Sorry, let's do PvP and PvE build for my Kung Fu Master. So, first I'm going to address PvP. This video is intended for people who are level 45 and do have a little bit of an understanding of what your skills are. But I'm just going to kind of break down what is an optimal spec in my opinion and how you go about playing with it. So in PvP as a Kung Fu Master, you don't really utilize all too much of your left click and your 2 skill. The reason why is because your enemies are not standing still unless you have them stunned. And if you have them stunned, you should be doing your 3RF combo. So realistically, you don't spec your 2 or your left click whenever you're doing this. My first point goes into triple kick. I just use 1 point here because what it allows me to do is, since triple kick is such a common skill to use whenever you successfully dodge or block break someone's counter, this will give you focus recovery over 3 seconds. Kung Fu Masters in PvP against fairly better opponents are very good at not hitting into the Kung Fu Master's Q and E dodges, so you need to find some way to actually get a little bit more focus consistently, and that's what this 1 point does. Keep in mind this is also a more of a flex point. So if you find something that you like a little bit more, you can always spec into this. Next up, 2 points into Flying Slam. With the patch of the most recent patch, the release of basically North American talents and everything like that, with the release of North American Blade and Soul, they luckily made it to where a lot of our skills required less talent points, and that basically gave us a pretty big buff on Kung Fu Masters and for PvP. Flying Slam, spec'd on the right side, is a piercing defense, big gap closer that launches your target into the air and hits pretty hard. This crits for 4 to 5k, which is 10% of your opponent's health most of the time in arenas, which is pretty insane because you can lead that into an air juggle, and this has won me a couple of games before. Typically, you want to use this after either for a long distance engage, everyone's kind of backed off and everything like that, or you can utilize it in combo with after you're 3RFing and you launch them into the air with a right click while they're stunned, you can actually SS out and then tab back onto them for a second air juggle. It's pretty insane what you can do with the Flying Slam on the right side. Next up is 2 points into your tab, or rather Ice Guard or Fighting Spirit. So I prefer to go with the Ice Guard build because this gives you a lot of defense. Using your tab skill can unstealth assassins, can buy you 5 seconds of time, or 3 to 5 seconds of time, so that some of your other skills might be coming up. I just find this to be a really, really useful skill in both saving your ass as well as baiting your opponents out. Otherwise, if you're feeling confident or you really want to burst someone down, you can spec into Fighting Spirit. Fighting Spirit will actually give you an insane damage buff, as you can see here. 40% crit chance, 50% crit damage, healing from all of your hits for the next 10 seconds, and you have basically infinite focus during this time. Once again, this is only if you're feeling really confident in your playstyle and you know that you can get those catches and those plays against your opponent. Otherwise, I highly recommend Ice Guard. Second Wind. Alright, here's where you want to put 2 points. First of all, you have to have your first point because what this does is it makes it to where your tab skill, when you are stunned, you can actually get out. Next, the second line, you either want to go on the left tree for summoners or possibly even Force Masters / Blade Dancers, because this will allow you to get out of grips. Once again, summoners are definitely the one class that I would always spec into this one. Otherwise, what you want to do is you want to spec on the right side, because this gives your tab effect whenever the opponent is on top of you a daze. So this is super strong because it's basically whenever you get caught, you can tab up and force a cooldown, an escape cooldown from your opponent. Super, super strong. It's won me a lot of games as well. So I prefer to spec into the right tree unless I'm against a summoner, then I spec on the left tree. 1 point into counter is all you need, in my opinion, because what this does is it gives you 100% defense boost for 8 seconds after you successfully block, or counter rather. So this is intended to give you a little bit of tankiness, but be careful. You don't always need the buff up. Just be careful to not get block breaked if you're spamming counter all the time. Next up is, of course, a part of the 3RF combo is the Shin Kick, speccing into leg sweep down and then into Shin Kick. The leg sweep just gives you a longer knockdown, a less focus cost, but Shin Kick is a part of your 3RF combo, which is a large portion of where your burst comes from as a KFM. Next up is your 4 skill. Now, with the patch, they made it reduced cost, which is great. What you want to do is spec down the far right tree for Comet Strike, because this will make it a ranged attack that is instant cast, and it applies a 2-second daze. This is an excellent skill to where you can actually, let's say you leg sweep someone, right, and they're knocked down on the ground, they backflip out to go, to get away. You can actually hit them with your 4 skill as they're backflipping and cause them to be dazed. This is a extremely strong catch, as well as like a basic attack chase type skill, right? Next up, your Rising Dragon. This is one of your on-demand stuns as a Kung Fu Master, as long as you spec it down on the far right tree. Specking all the way down gives you a 2-second stun on the skill, as well as a 10% HP boost, or 10% HP heal, which can be very, very strong, in those kind of long fought-out battles. Next up is your Searing Palm. Searing Palm can also be spec'd both ways. What this is for Searing Palm, down the left tree, you can go, whenever you finally catch them in a 3RF combo, you can just do 3x, 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 or like 3x, 3x, stun, 3x, 3x, for a high amount of damage burst. However, nowadays with the increased health pools, I recommend going the right tree, because this will give you a prolonged stun effect on your opponent. This is the classic stun chain from a Kung Fu Master, where you don't have your the enemy doesn't have their tab up, they catch you with 1 stun, and then all of a sudden it's 3RF X, which activates the Searing Palm, 3RF other stun, 3RF, 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 because once you hit 5 times, this will prolong or apply another stun, which lasts for 2 seconds. It's a very, very strong skill, and you'll actually see it in a couple of my other videos going over how I play, because I'm going to be doing more analytical gameplay. In fact, I'll post a link to one in the top, let's say top right for now. Next up is going to be your Flurry Scale. This is your C and one of your best gap closers, as well as one of your CCs that are available. Specking down the far right tree makes it to where your Flurry not only is a gap closer, but every single hit is a daze. This is very strong because for certain classes like Assassin, where even if you see or flurry into their counter, they're going to stealth, but you will actually continue following them and still hit them out of stealth with the daze effect. This, used in conjunction once again with the Comet Strike range, allows you to catch a lot of opponents off guard and get their backflips out and things along those lines, or maybe even their tab. 1 point into V, because this prolongs the stun, which is, once again, KFMs rely on stuns and dazes to go about killing their opponent using the 3RF combo. 1 point in to prolong the stun. Then lastly, you're going to spec 3 points into your Q and E, because this will make it to where every time you Q and E, you will get a 1.5 second invulnerability frame for both skills, both your Q and your E, and every single time you dodge, you get a heal over a time effect and increased movement speed. A big thing to note about this as well is if an opponent hits into your Q and E 5 times, you will actually become awakened and make it to where you have 50% more movement speed and 100% evasion. Insanely, insanely strong. Alright, that's it for the PvP guild, or the PvP build. What I'm going to do is we'll go right over here so you can pause it on this screen and see exactly what I put points into. Alright, next up is the PvE build. The PvE build is a little bit more straightforward, just because you focus on focus recovery and just dealing constant damage. And usually I like to tank, or I'll try to tank for the group to make things go a little bit smoother, and so I'll kind of highlight the points in that. 3 points into your straight jab. This makes it to where you get more focus recovery every single time you crit with your left click, which you're going to be using a lot of. You're also going to be getting a stacking crit bonus every single time you hit and you don't crit. This is a very, very important skill to keep up your focus recovery. 1 point to Guiding Fist basically makes it to where you're going to have increased aggro for 15 seconds every time you engage, which is really solid. You engage with your right click, and then all of a sudden, you're guaranteed to have aggro. Next up, 2 points into your Fighting Spirit. This is your big damage burst. This is your big damage buff that you're going to bring into your group. Use this pretty much right at the start of boss fights, right at burst phases on boss fights. That's whenever you want to use it. It's only a 1.5 minute cooldown, so use it often, is what I'll say. 1 point into Second Wind. I like this because there are a lot of boss mechanics which will stun. We all mess up at some point. This will help you get out of stuns, which otherwise will get you killed. 3 points into Counter. I go down the right tree because this, once again, gives me a 15-second threat increase buff. But the biggest thing is that if you notice on the second line here, successful resist one uses damage and status effects for 1 second. This means you get an iframe for 1 second after you successfully counter. This is very, very strong, especially whenever there are a lot of bosses who do 2 strikes in a row. This will make it to where you'll dodge basically the second hit naturally through an iframe. 3 points into your Swift Strike. This is your single target build where all you're doing is spamming 2 left click, 2 left click, 2 left click until you get a crit with your 2, and then you'll hit F. So this basically makes it to where it does more damage, costs less, and if it crits, you recover the focus cost of it. Next up is the Shin Kick. The Shin Kick spec here is good if you're in groups that you know that you're going to have like a destroyer picking up the opponent, or like some kind of phantom grip or anything along those lines. Or it's also good, yeah, that's basically the use of it, is if you know you can pull your 3RF combo on certain PvE mobs. Because it also activates your Searing Blow or Searing Palm whenever for PvE for high damage burst. Speaking of which, our next spec is Searing Palm. You go down the left tree because you're not going to be focusing on stunning and CCing opponents. You're going to go down the left tree because this is going to give you increased crit chance as you're using the skill. It's going to give you increased crit damage. It's going to give you more focus while also unleashing everything. Basically, anytime that you can start stacking Searing Palm, or even better, if you can stack it every 10 seconds roughly, what that'll do, so basically you proc it once, wait like 6 seconds, proc it again, wait 6 seconds, proc it again, wait 6 seconds, proc it the last time. You can do this by dodging with your Q and your E, or if they're being picked up and things like that, because this will maximize the amount of time that you have a crit buff as well as a crit damage buff, rather than blowing all the damage right at once. Next up is your Tremor. 3 points into Tremor down the middle because this will pull all the mobs right together. Extremely good for grouping, as well as giving a 20% increased crit damage buff on that area in the meantime. Video's getting kind of long, so I'm going to be wrapping it up here. Last 3 points into your Q and E. Once again, part of the iframe. This is essential for dodging boss mechanics. Alright guys, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Make sure to leave a like, ask any questions down below, and you'll see more videos from me in the future. Once again, this is the KFM guide for both PvP and PvE. Peace out, guys.